I want to talk to you about the power of purpose, passion, and balance. And it's based on, as you'll hear, on 5 professional lives that I have lived. I started going into my 6th life about 2 months ago. I'm taking a course on how to become a genie. You know, you rub this little lamp and out comes a genie. I'm taking a course on how to be a genie, and I've made some progress that I can grant a couple of wishes, and I'd like to grant some wishes to the audience. But I can only grant one wish, and I'm going to give you what those 2 wishes are. One is, how many of you would like to be rich and famous? The second one is, how many of you would like to change the world for the better? All right. How many of you would like to be rich and famous? Raise your hand. All right. How many of you would like to change the world for the better? Raise your hand. All right. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I lied. I'm going to tell you how to do both of those things. All right? Okay. So we're going to talk about purpose, passion, and balance. And to do that, I want to show you, based on my experience, how you can simultaneously create both personal and professional fulfillment, and at the same time, make a better world as the best of all worlds. What I'm going to tell you is based on a book that I have written called Balance, The Business Life Connection. It's published in English and in Czech. If you prefer to buy that book after you hear what I have to tell you, because I can't possibly tell you all the details, you can buy it from any of the Luxor bookstores, or you can buy it online at the e-shop at Chateau Mazzelli, www.chateaumazzelli.com, or you could even go to my website and download a free chapter to see whether you like it. So, if I'm going to convince you of some of the things that I think are important to be able to live a life of purpose, passion, and to do it in a balanced way, I need to tell you a little bit about who I am. As I told you, I have lived 5 professional lives. And that's where I have drawn this experience that I want to share with you tonight. So the first life was as a rock star. Now, how did this happen? At the age of 12, I started a rock band, and I began to play music for parties, weddings, dances, high school dances, that sort of thing. At the age of 16, my group and I were kind of driving down the street, and we saw a very interesting image. And this is what we saw. It was very inspirational. Now, some of the inspirations I can't really tell you in public, but I can tell you one that led to me becoming a rock star. This lady, as you can see, is wearing very lovely short shorts. And so we were hanging out the window, and I don't know if you could see it. Yeah, you can. Okay. We were hanging out the window saying, "We love those short shorts." And the idea came to us to write a song called Short Shorts. The long and the short of it is, in 1958, before anyone in this audience was born, we recorded a record that sold 2 million copies. And here is our group playing in Las Vegas. That's me kneeling down. Please don't ask me to do that, because you'll have to call an ambulance. I won't be able to get up. But my colleagues in this first job were Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Some of them you may have heard of, even though you were all very young. These were the pioneers of rock and roll. We traveled together. We played all over the United States, Canada, and sometimes even in Europe. So that was my first life. But I had a second passion. And my second passion was science and technology. I really was interested in chemistry, physics, mathematics. And so, the way this happened, at the age of 9 years old, my father bought me a chemistry set. And then after I made all of these bombs and stink bombs and things that boys do, rockets, I saw in the library a book called 1,000 Recipes of Useful Products. And I began to make, with my chemistry set, adhesives, glue, ink, cosmetics. And I began to bottle those and sell them in the neighborhood. And people actually were willing to buy these things. And so what was really incredible to me is not just the money, but that somebody was willing to buy something from my technology. And so I got really excited and I became known as the neighborhood chemist. All legal stuff. I didn't make any drugs. You think I would tell you if I did? Anyway, so what this led to, while I was playing with the Royal Teens and traveling around, I got permission from my high school and then ultimately from the university where I went to school, Rutgers University in New Brunswick, to be able to travel and study as long as I kept my grades up. I was the only one who was in the back room reading a calculus book while all the other guys were out with the girls. They thought I was nuts. But I studied and eventually got a PhD in physical chemistry. And so I went for my first job. I gave up rock and roll after 10 years, and I became a research scientist for Exxon. And at Exxon, I eventually became a director of research in New Jersey, and we developed unleaded gasoline, we developed safe octane gasoline, the first efficient fuel cells. We developed, working with Ford, who was one of the supporters of this particular conference, working with Ford Motor Company, my group helped them develop the first automotive catalytic converter. After 7 years at Exxon, I got tired of working for a large company, and there was something inside of me that said, I want to start my own company. I want to change the world and make it better. And we had an expertise in catalytic science, which allows you to make things cheaper and cleaner. And so I decided with a friend of mine, we left Exxon and went out to Silicon Valley, where I stayed for 27 years and began to start companies, one of them in clean energy, but the other one, by far the most successful, was one in pharmaceuticals. And this is a picture of one of our 3 plants. That's in Greenville, North Carolina. Everything you see on that picture was part of Catalytica Pharmaceuticals. We had 2 other plants, one in East Palo Alto, California, and one in South Haven, Michigan, on Lake Michigan. But here's the interesting thing, and this was an interesting challenge. In 5 years, here's what we were able to do. We went from 5 people to 2,000 people. We went from 0 sales to $500 million a year sales, with profits of net profits of more than $50 million a year. We were a public company on the NASDAQ stock exchange, and our worth was $1 billion when somebody came, our biggest competitor from Holland, came and made us an offer, the shareholders an offer, to buy the company. So we sold it. Somewhat reluctantly, but we sold it. And so, enter job number 3. Here I am, I'm out of my Catalytica job, and I moved with my wife from Palo Alto, California, to Southern California, a small village called Ojai. And there we bought a small horse ranch, and I was trying to figure out what to do. And my wife at the time was a screenplay writer for Hollywood. She wrote a lot of scripts for movies. And our daughter is an actress. And so she wrote a script for Polly, our daughter, and she wanted to make this into a movie and direct it. Well, I brought the script to Paramount Pictures, and Paramount wanted the script for themselves. They wanted to buy it, but Jane wanted to direct the film, and they said, no way. So I said, well, we just sold the company. We have a little bit extra money. Why don't we start a movie company? And so enter business number 4. You'll notice it goes back and forth between entertainment and science and technology. And we started Chateau Wally Films, named after the estate that we owned in Southern California. Now, we got everything ready. My wife auditioned all the actors and the actresses, and I became the executive producer in charge of money and the production team and all of that sort of thing. And this film was made and shot entirely on location in the Texas Panhandle, in a small village called Vega, Texas, 300 people. And the name of the movie is called What Matters Most. Now, and this is the movie poster. The young lady on there is my daughter Polly. The young man is Chad Allen, who is one of the stars of a long-time TV show called Dr. Quinn, Medicine Women. I don't know if you've ever seen that in the Czech Republic. And here's Jane. I'm sorry, yeah, there she is. And she's the writer-director. Unfortunately, 2 weeks before we left for Texas to shoot this, Jane found out she had stage 4 breast cancer. Now, I think you probably know that stage 4 breast cancer is pretty much a death sentence. And so I said to Jane, what do you want to do? And she said, I want to make this movie. I said, okay. So I arranged for her to make the movie, rock and roll please, maybe. I arranged for her to make the movie and get chemotherapy in Texas. And so every Friday morning she would get chemotherapy, and we shot the film 18 hours a day. She was directing it while she was fighting breast cancer. Now the film we finished on May 1st, 2001, and she lost her battle with cancer, breast cancer, on June 1st, a month later. But she got to see the movie, and she was happy, and she never thought that it would be distributed. But being an entrepreneur, I said, look, I don't know anything about the movie business, but I'm going to get this thing marketed. And so the first thing I did is I submitted it to international film festivals, and it became a winner in 5 international film festivals, and my daughter was voted in one of them as the most promising new actress. And so subsequently, we released it on a network called Lifetime Television, which is the biggest cable network in the world, and it became one of their best movies. They renewed the contract for 6 years. And then subsequently from that, it's been distributed in 50-plus countries. One idea I would like to leave you right here. Realize I knew nothing about movies. Jane had never directed a film in her life. But both of us were incredibly passionate. We were going to make this thing a success. And that passion spread out to the actors and the directors. I mean, not the director, my wife's the director, but the producers and everybody else. And that made the film come out fantastic, and that's why it won so many awards. Now, here I am, Jane's gone, and I'm back at Chateau Wally trying to think about what am I going to do? What am I going to do next? And I had a lot of offers to become CEO of a company again, but I had no interest in doing that. And then one day, on this long drive, up came a friend of mine, a producer from Los Angeles, and he and his wife live in LA, and his wife is from Bratislava. She's Slovak. And lo and behold, one of her friends was visiting from Prague, another Slovak. And she got out of the car, and I looked at her, and I fell in love with her instantly. I mean it. And I had no intentions of getting married again because I had, at that time, 3 grandchildren. Now I have 5. My oldest just graduated from Harvard 2 days ago. And so I got on a plane 2 days later, and I came to Prague, and I stayed here, and I sold our estate in Southern California. And here's that pretty lady, my wife, and her name at the time was Inez Shipolova, and she said, I have a little project for you. And she says, I just bought this castle. Now, you have to understand that Inez had been the managing director, CEO of a heritage restoration company in Prague. So she knew all about restoring buildings. And she bought this thing, and this is 6 months into renovation. If you would see the initial pictures, you would say, my God, why would anybody buy that? But she had a feeling about the energy of this place, the specialness of this place. And I said, why not? Let's do it. So we worked as a business team, and a year and a half later, we got married, and now she's Inez Cusumano. Now, here's what it looks like today for those of you who have never heard of or been to Chateau Mazzelli. It's located near Poděbrady, not far from Nymburk. It's an hour drive, less than an hour drive from the very center of Prague, from the old town. Now, let me tell you about this business. Our mission is to go beyond hospitality by enriching the lives of all of our stakeholders. We are not interested, nor were we ever interested, in being a hotel, a restaurant, even though our restaurant was voted #1 in the Czech Republic last year, or a spa, which has won lots of awards. What we wanted to do is to create a place where people like you or anybody else from around the world would come, and we could help them body, mind, and spirit in everything we do to make their life better, to make it a better world. And so when I talk about stakeholders, I don't mean shareholders. That's me and Inez. I don't mean that at all. I mean our guests, I mean our employees, and I do mean our investors. I also mean our suppliers, whom we love, and I mean our community, whom we donate to, and the world, because everything we do is to make all of those things better. Now, those are my 5 lives so far. I'm really not going to become a genie. I'd like to. And so what I'd like to do now is to take the experience that I got in those years and share it with you on how do you get personal fulfillment? Which one is closest to your heart? That's a good one. I think we'll save these for the end, okay? Anyway, personal fulfillment. For me, it's feelings of contentment, joy, and satisfaction. And there's nobody in the world that can be happy and content every second that they're awake. You know that. I know that. Maybe a monk living in a cave somewhere in Nepal might be able to do that. But most of us ordinary folks, you can't. But I want to ask you, at the end of a day, at the end of a week, at the end of a month, and someday, even though all of you are quite young, when you're laying down in bed and you're about to leave your body, don't you want to look back and say, I like what I did. I made a difference. You will, trust me. And so, how do you get there? Well, let's talk about professional fulfillment. These ladies in this picture are professionally fulfilled. Why? They're engaged with what they do. They're involved in everything they do. They're enthusiastic. They don't go to work and resentful and can't wait for TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. They like their job. They're committed. And they work in a place where they can use their creative skills. Professional fulfillment. Let me share a study with you, and maybe you're aware of this qualitatively, but let me put some numbers on it. Towers Perrin, very big consulting company. They studied 90,000 workers in more than 18 countries, and here's what they did. They asked them several questions. Are you involved in decision-making in your company, especially as it affects you? Are you allowed to do innovative or creative thinking? Do they do things to enhance your skills, to make you a better person professionally? And are the executives interested in your life, in your personal life? And by that I mean your well-being. I don't mean all of your personal life, but your well-being. And then they took a picture of the happy guys. What percentage of people do you think are fully engaged and happy in their job? Anybody want to take a shot? Well, that's depressing. 3%. Actually, the numbers that I usually get are between 5 and 25. And the answer is, in this study, 21%. And all of the studies that have been done to support this, they vary between 15 and 25%. But think about this. Let's look at this. Here's what people said. 21% said, okay, we like the company, and we'll go the extra mile, the extra kilometer for the company. 41% said, I'm sending out my resume. Why? I don't know if I really like it here. And a grand total of 38% were totally disengaged, just collecting a paycheck. That's pretty sad. Almost 80% of the people are unengaged. Can you imagine if even half of those were engaged in their job? Can you imagine the competitiveness of that company? So this is what our world is like right now. Why are they unfulfilled? 2 reasons. The first is obvious. If you have an uninspired management, and they are not inspired about what they're doing, how can you possibly be inspired to be there? Duh. Second, uninspired employees. A lot of times, why would an employee be uninspired? Well, there are a few reasons. One, as I show you, they haven't discovered their life purpose. The second is they discovered their life purpose, but they're in the wrong job. They're an accountant doing some engineering stuff, or they're an engineer doing accounting. Okay? That's not a happy situation. Or they're in the right job, but they're completely out of balance. They're working 100 hours a week, completely neglecting their family. And it catches up with them, and everybody loses in the end. So what's missing? Here's what people said. There's a spiritual factor. I don't mean religious. They want to do what they do best, what they like most, and they want to do something with a higher purpose. They want to make the world better. I challenge every one of you, if you really look inside, be quiet in the morning, look inside, and think about what do you really want to do. Whatever it is, whatever your skill is, you would like to make this a better world in some way, shape, or form. The second is mental. They want opportunities to focus on their tasks at work. They don't want to be distracted by all kinds of junk that don't really allow them to achieve what they're doing. The third is emotional. They want to feel valued. All of us, every one of you, me, everybody in this auditorium, we want to be loved. That's a word you don't use in business. But we want to be appreciated. Fourth is physical. They want to renew and recharge, not at home. They want to do it at work. When I had Catalytica Pharmaceuticals, we had a gymnasium and we had a meditation room where people used to go to recharge. And nobody worried about that they weren't at their desk because the efficiency of the organization was phenomenal. That's why we were able to grow from 5 people to 2,000 people in less than 5 years. Also, growth opportunities. They want to be sure that they can grow in their job, even if it's not a promotion, that they're learning something and they're taking more responsibility in some way, shape, or form, having growth. And if you do that, you will have happier, more fulfilled people, and your business will be more successful. Now, what about long-term fulfillment? Okay, so I maintain from everything I've seen, and I've gone through this in great detail in the book, you have to follow your life purpose. And there's a second thing you have to do, which we'll come to in a minute, and then you're home free. Life purpose. Each of you, every single one here sitting in this auditorium, has what I call an essence. An essence is something you do well and you love to do. You were born with it. And if you watch little kids, sometimes you can see what it is. And maybe when you were young, you knew what it was. Maybe you've forgotten. Maybe somebody talked you out of it. Or maybe you know what it is and you're using it. That's what your essence is. Remember that. That's important. Now, there's what I call hard essence, and those are the technical things like art, music, sports, math, computers, that sort of thing. But there's also soft factors, and they're very important. They mean like EQ, emotional intelligence, empathy, compassion, tenacity, courage, awareness, okay? That kind of resilience. And life purpose is for you to discover your essence and somehow connect it with a need in the world. In my book, I show you how to do that, to make this a better world, and it'll blow your mind. It will really make you extremely fulfilled and happy. Now, unfortunately, there's a mechanical thing wrong with the slide, but I like this quote. Mark Twain, who actually stayed at Chateau Mazzelli in the late 1800s, he was the one to come up with this quote. He said, you know, the two most important days in your life, you know one of them is the day you're born, but very few people know the second one. And that's the day you find out why you were born, okay? And that's your life purpose. So I see a serious global issue. I see many people who fail to follow their life purpose. And you can see the symptoms all around you. No direction, depression, anxiety, disengagement, poor performance, ultimately leading to economic chaos personally and maybe even professionally. So the primary cause, we are driven by an unsustainable definition of success. Every one of you and I, as I was growing up, and you, have been brainwashed about the definition of success. It comes from the Industrial Revolution. There are two factors that we believe are important for success. Anybody want to take a stab at it? Anybody? What's important first? How do we define success? Two things. Money, wealth, yes. Wealth and power, position. But there's something missing. Let me show you a metaphor. Here's a three-legged chair or stool. Success. There's nothing wrong with wealth. There's nothing wrong with making money. There's nothing wrong with trying to get promoted, obviously. But if this is missing, if purpose is missing, and by purpose I mean applying what you love to do, what you're good at, and what can make a positive difference in the world, you're in trouble. And that's an unstable situation. Unstable. Now, I spent almost 30 years in Silicon Valley, and my neighbor for 5 years was Steve Jobs. So I knew him very well. Now, he's an outlier, he's kind of an unusual guy, but I can tell you categorically that he was not driven to make money. Yes, he was a control guy because he believed that he knew the right way to change the world with his inventions and his ideas, but he never intended to become a billionaire. Larry Page and Sergey knew them too. They never intended to become billionaires. They had something that they wanted to change the world. And I can name dozens of them. So many people will start with a sense of purpose to change the world, and they'll make money, they'll get promoted. I don't know too many people who were driven only by money, only by power, who all of a sudden said, thank God what I have done. I'm really pleased. I have a purpose. All right? So, long-term fulfillment, the two things you need to have a happy, fulfilled life. One is, as I said, your life purpose, and the other is balance. Let's quickly look at balance. Balance means you need to see optimal effort towards the goals that you think are important for you personally and professionally. Okay? And the goal should be desired rewards in both those areas. What's required? A values-based life plan. You have to develop a plan. You can't just wing it. And it has to be based on managing your time and your energy. You want to spend your positive, good energy on things that are most important and the right time on most important. And there's a way to do that. We don't have the time to go through it, but it has to do with basically 6 values: professional, financial, relationship, spiritual, health, and knowledge. And you need to set up goals and an action plan in each of those. And in my book, I show you how to do that. And when you do that and you look at it occasionally, it gets you going in the direction that you need to go to be successful. So here's the path to fulfillment. You start with your essence. You got to discover that if you don't know what it is. You then find a need in the world that you can address and make it a better world. That gives you a life purpose. And then, if you are doing a life purpose and you really love what you're doing, it creates incredible passion, okay? And that passion gives you physical, spiritual, and emotional energy. And the 2 sides of your brain, your left hemisphere and your right hemisphere, are connected like you would not believe. And you are able to create and innovate and solve problems you never thought you would be able to solve, okay? And then you get the reward. And the reward could be financial, it could be spiritual, it could be psychological, emotional, or some combination of them all. And that leads you to feel grateful. You're really grateful for what you've gotten. And that leads to fulfillment. And if you do it in balance between your personal life and your professional life, you're home free. Now, I'm going to go through this quickly because I don't want to take too much of your time, but purpose and balance are also the marks of inspired leaders, and I know we have a number of leaders here. Here's 2 myths that I'd like to dismiss as far as I'm concerned. Leaders are born. That's not true. Yes, there are people who are very charismatic, and they're great leaders, they're born, but leaders can also be trained. Managers can't be leaders. Not true. You don't manage people, you manage things. You lead people. So even if you're a manager, you manage spreadsheets and whatever, but you lead your people. Now, inspired leaders, what they do is they build businesses that inspire and benefit all of those 6 stakeholders that I mentioned earlier to you. They present a compelling vision. This is how we're going to change the world. Everybody wants to be part of something like that. They all want to get on that ship. And they empower their employees to excel. How can I make Judy or John or Peter or whatever, how can I really push them up and let them be as great as they can be? That's what you have to build into your culture. And they demonstrate admirable values. And you know what they are. I mean, they're basically integrity and that sort of thing. And they foster innovation. Innovation is so critical. And an innovative company, I have found, working in Silicon Valley and with our own company, you make products that make a difference. You don't try to scrimp 1% of market share from somebody else. You make a product. Do you think Steve Jobs, when he was developing the iPhone, said, let's go get a Nokia telephone, let's back engineer it, and let's see if we can get a few % of the market from Nokia? No way. He basically created a market with a new, incredible concept. Vision demands innovation. You must be sure that your vision of your company absolutely demands that you be innovative. You have to tolerate mistakes. These products, Teflon, Velcro, penicillin, Post-it notes, Viagra, they were all mistakes. Let me tell you a Viagra story. We had $20 million invested in our company, Catalytica Pharmaceuticals from Pfizer. We helped them develop a lot of the manufacturing processes for their drugs. Here's how Viagra happened. It was a mistake. They had a molecule that was in an existing drug that was a great heart drug. And they said, you know, if we tweak this molecule right here, it should bring more blood to the heart. And boy, that'll be a blockbuster. Well, they tweaked the molecule, and they did their clinical trials, and it did bring more blood, but not to that organ, to a different organ. And they created a multi-billion-dollar business. That's the honest-to-God truth. That's the true story of Viagra. So, mistakes are okay. High employee autonomy. Everybody's different, but you gotta let your people you got to give them a little circle to work in, but you can't tell them exactly what to do. And you need to reward innovation. Very difficult process. At Catalytica, we had a really complicated way of rewarding the individual, the team, the division, the whole company, because we all played a role. And obviously, it was different percentages for all those people, but you got to reward them. And trust, critical, because trust is really the single metric which is the best predictor of employee satisfaction. If you have trust in your company, your employees will love you. And inspired leaders know how to do this. How do they gain trust? It's not rocket science. Here's how they do it. First of all, the employees must know that they're developing something that makes a difference. Everybody, even the janitor at Catalytica Pharmaceuticals, he was keeping the place clean so drugs weren't getting contaminated. He was excited about his job. They need to know that makes a difference. They need to understand in the context that allows them to do their job, the strategy for the company, and they need to know how their role can contribute to that strategy and the goals. And they need to be informed of progress and the impact, negative and positive, all right, on what they're doing. Now, this is my almost last slide. Each one of these is a chapter. These are 8 ways to build a great company. First, you have to have an inspired leader. Second, you need to create a dream, not just 1% margin. You need to hire the right people at the right time for the right job. And when you make a mistake, you need to, with great compassion, try to find a place for them in the company. And if you can't, you fire them immediately after you've exhausted all the possibilities. Why? Because it's in their best interest and the interest of the company. You need to create a market. That's important, not just steal market share. You need to focus, and because people will come after you when you're starting to be successful, and they will want you to do all kinds of things, and you have limited resources, so you must focus and create an early success. I won't go into the baseball analogy that I usually use, hit a single, because you probably don't follow that. But if you have a service business or a product business, always try to show proof of concept commercially as soon as possible. It'll raise your credibility, it'll raise the value of your company, and so you'll give less away when you go to raise venture capital or whatever. Plan, but remain flexible and support all of those stakeholders. Summary: find your essence and your purpose. If you don't know it, do it. Life is too short. You don't want to live somebody else's life. Live a life that comes from in here. Discover your dream and pursue it with passion. It'll be easy to do if it's your dream. Find balanced fulfillment through a values and energy-based life plan and help build a better world. Enjoy your journey. Thank you very much for your attention.
Jima Cusumana. I think it's fair to call this grande finale, isn't it? With this making the world a better place reminded me something. Do you watch the HBO series Silicon Valley?
I'm sorry.
You don't hear it.
At my age, I can't hear well. Would you say that again?
Do you watch the HBO series Silicon Valley?
I have watched it. I don't like it.
I love this. It's a historically funny line there where there's the billionaire who's losing some contract, and he's saying, I don't want to live in a world where someone else is making the world a better place better than we do.
I love that.
It is funny.
I like that
line.
It is funny. I like that line.
So we have some questions. So, hi James, I'm your big fan. Will you sing us? Behave yourself. This is not a rock concert. Forget it. Excuse me. These guys are insane.
Oh.
No.
Oh, okay.
No singing.
All right.
Rock and roll, please. They have to be mad. No.
How can
Jim,
no. I'm an old guy.
This is not a rock concert. I'm responsible
for it. Give me a break.
This.
I got a heart problem.
Nobody's singing on this stage. Jim, you are a man of many professions. Which one is closest to your heart? The closest to your heart?
Well, I would say there's two, for two different reasons. One is Catalytica Pharmaceuticals, because we were able to build that so quickly, and from 5 to 2,000 people. But the reason we were able to do that is we spent 10 years before that building our culture, getting our people to love each other and to love all of us, and really, really hang in there when times are tough. And that culture is so powerful. Human beings can do something, none of you, including myself, really understand how powerful we have inside, the spirit that we have and what we can do. We see it occasionally in sports, in other places. So that's one. I really love that. But the other is Chateau Mazzelli. Why? Many of these people come locally from the villages, and we've trained them, and we do lots and lots of team building. And these people, humble people, do incredible service, extraordinary service. If you go to TripAdvisor and you see the incredible number of excellences, and I don't want to brag too much because it is our baby, but I must say that is an incredible example of what human beings could do when they're motivated. So those two.
Okay. Would there be your next 4 lives without this first big success with the rock band?
Yes, there would be. Because I had to choose between rock and roll and science and technology. And I chose science and technology. I had a chance to join a very successful group and to become a multimillionaire when I was 25 years old, and I turned it down. And that group is, some of you probably know them, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. And they became incredibly famous. But I turned it down because my first love was to follow science and technology and help change the world. And so basically, I think, yes, it would have still happened.
Your hotel is so expensive. Can you get to somebody of this audience some discount?
Yes.
Okay, yes, thank you.
I'll tell you what.
The one who asked this question just...
Vlasta Pilka's here. He's the managing director of, the founding managing director of Chateau Mazzelli. I will tell him, give you a really good deal, and he'll probably kick me in the pants when I get off the stage.
Do you help or invest in small, independent, interesting projects?
Where'd it go? Oh.
It's even more money than the discount at Chateau Mazzelli.
Yes. I think you don't push them, but you guide them. And you have to find ways that speak to them. Everybody has a way that speaks to them differently. And if you can touch one person and help them find their essence in their life, it will be such an incredible accomplishment for you. You can't imagine how happy you will feel.
Okay. Somebody fell in love with your wife, which we just...
I occasionally rent her out for dates, so let me know who you are after this, and it's not too expensive. But thank you very much. I will tell her that she's an incredible human being. She's a full-time mother, we don't have an au pair, and a full-time professional at Chateau Mazzelli, guiding and counseling our group there. So she is an incredible human being.
And the last question is, will you move to the science again, or is Chateau Mazzelli your last job?
No, I think my next job is probably going to be in about 20 years as a Buddhist monk in some cave in Nepal.
Okay, I think we can call it a day. What do you think?
Can you take this off? I like that mic better.
I can.
Hello. You know what? I have an idea. Ooh, that tickles. How many of you would like to hear an old man sing rock and roll?
Takže to je dneska všechno. Mějte se hezky a nashledanou.
All right. Maestro, let's do it. Let's do something. Music. A little bit louder. Since my baby left me, found a new place to dwell. It's down at the end of Lonely Street at Heartbreak Hotel where I'll be so lonely, baby. I'll be so lonely. I'll be so lonely I could die. Well, the bellhop's tears keep flowing. The desk clerk's dressed in black. They've been so long on Lonely Street, they'll never, ever look back. They'll be so lonely, baby. They'll be so lonely. They'll be so lonely they could die. Now Elvis was a hunter, and he had a dog, which wasn't a good hunting dog. This is for him. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine. Woo! Well, you said you was high class, but that was just a lie. Yes, you said you was high class, that was just a lie. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine. Woo! Yeah. Elvis Presley was a very handsome man. He had a lot of girls. He fell in love with one, though. Her name was Priscilla, Brooklyn, New York. And he said, Priscilla, every time I look in your eyes, baby, you do something special to me, honey. And he sang this song for Priscilla. I'm all shook up, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, bless my soul, what's wrong with me? I'm itching like a man on a fuzzy tree. My friends say I'm acting wild as a bug, I'm in love. I'm all shook up, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, my hands are shaky and my knees are weak. I can't seem to stand on my own 2 feet. Who do you think when you have such luck? I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, please don't ask me what's on my mind. I'm a little mixed up, but I'm feeling fine. I'm near the girl that I love best. My heart beats so it scares me to death when she touches my lips. What a thrill I got. My lips are just like a volcano that's hot. I'm proud to say that she's my buttercup. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm all shook up. Thank you. Thank you very much.